Hello and welcome to Stir Crazy Arts Classes with Gerald Savine, lesson number 7, project number 4. We're now going to start painting the Fisherman's Hut at Walberswick, and I'm going to show you slightly different ways of working with watercolour. There are many ways of working with watercolour, but here we're going to have a slight mix. See the sky here, it's a bit what I call looser, the colour, can you see how the colour's been flowing, whereas it's much more controlled here, and where the greenery is a little bit of mix of both together. So to start off with, we're going to do the sky, so it doesn't all fall down. I don't need the sky. And what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to dampen the paper. And what I'm going to do here is quickly work over with the brush with water on. Now this is where you need to be careful, because when you come down to where your pencil lines are, be a little bit more careful about how you go. And not so much, doesn't matter so much about where the greenery is, but here, when you come up against the building, you need to be a little bit more careful, painting very carefully around your pencil line. Because what will happen is the colour will flow down the page, and because of the it hits the damp where the water stops, the paint will stop running. Because one of the things about watercolour is, and again it depends on how you land up painting with watercolour, the colour can flow one into the other if it's too wet. I don't know when we did the poppy, I said about being careful. Now, so I've done that, and so it can dry off a little bit. Now I'm going to mix in some water with I've already squeezed some cerulean blue in. I'm going to get a bit of mix it around, and just make sure. Don't want it too wet, because we've already got wet on the paper, but we need to make sure it's really sort of well mixed up. Again, I have to say this, but I think the advantages of colour out of the tubes, because you've always got a rich colour. Now I'm going to apply some of this colour across the top. Now again here, the important thing is, I always say is when we are painting, we work from top to bottom and back to front. So if you think about the sky, now that's really quite strong, isn't it? Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wash out my brush, water on the brush, but then again I will now start what I call squidging the colour around and pulling the colour down. Again, working quite quickly. I have to work quite quickly because of the time that we've got to get this done. And you see again how it's, if you think about the sky, when you look at it from a distance, just above your head, the colour on a nice blue sunny day, the sky can be quite a deep colour, but as it goes away from into distance, you get more and more atmosphere in between, so the colour thins down. Now you can see how that colour's just running down the page of it. And what I'm going to do is I can just bring a little extra colour in like that. Whoa, that's a bit of a splosh, isn't it? There we go. So again, we just quickly work over this side as well. The disadvantage about working with it being very wet is that the paper, even on a pad like this, can begin to buckle up. You get sort of what I call valleys and ridges. So it's one of the problems you have with watercolour on the paper. We would used to we don't do it so much, but we used to stretch the paper, and it doesn't happen then. And also, if you use much heavier weight paper, the heavier the weight of the paper, because paper, well, don't want to get too complicated, but paper has different weights, and this is again a medium sort of colour. Now I'm just going to put a little bit more colour into there. And again, you can see that's going to get thinned out. Don't want my brush too wet now. And again, what I call squidge it around. Just gives a little feeling of the atmosphere coming right up to the building, tidily up against there. All right, so be careful. Be careful not to overdo it. Again, unfortunately, I'm having to work fairly quickly. I'm just going to soften that down a bit there, so it's not. But can you see? It gives us a bit of a feeling of a thin cloud cover. Let's put a bit more into there, I think, just to bring it down to the building. But you can see how Can you see how that colour is now blending because it's working in onto a damp area. Now, what we need to do now is we need to be careful not to get the colour as far as the building goes, because that's the important part of the composition. We're going to leave that part to dry. We can now start looking at the grass and the foliage. So here again, you'll notice that there's quite light in places. So what we're going to do is we're going to use sap green, and I'm going to mix some lemon yellow. And if you remember last time when we were doing the poppy about when you're mixing colours in, we go and bring the I'm changing the water pot there into a clean one. We need to bring the darker colour into the lighter colour. There's quite a lot of greenery there, so we're going to mix up quite a bit. And this time I'm not going to wet the paper first. I'm going to pick up a bit of the sap green, gradually bring it in, watching our time. There we go. Now again, here we've got some the trees up here. I'm just dabbing some colour on. See, I'm dabbing it on rather, so it gives a rather than just brushing it on like that. By dabbing it, you get the feeling of the greenery. Again, you know, it won't be the same. What you land up with will be a bit different to me. Be careful through places like this where you come up against the pencil lines. You want the building to remain nice and clear, so you don't land up with the paint getting mixed up with it. Again here, just working out different. Imagine this is the light is catching the trees and the grass here, and then further down you've got we can again go in with quite a big area now. And again here I'm going to work the colour like this, so it's not flat. Checking out what I did there. Now, one of the problems you could land up with is probably just going to happen here is I might be careful. Not careful enough. I might lose some of the colour. It's thinned down a bit. It comes in. So something going to be judging how much colour you need to get in. Now this might seem quite crude. I mean, I'll not pretend otherwise. Way of doing it, but as you'll see, when it dries, that you've got a nice sort of feeling of the rough grass. Now I'm running out of the green here, so I'm going to put just a little bit more in now. And again, now it's not quite the same colour, but that doesn't matter too much. Again, you can see you've got different layers of strength of the greens. But we're going to try and cover up a lot of the area with a lighter green. Going over here as well. So it's quite quick, casual, because the next time we put colour on, it will be a bit more controlled, and we'll gradually sort of cover up the areas a bit more. So I'm coming right, and I'm coming, for those if you've done a line around, can you see I'm going right across those lines? Because if you imagine it, you to do a wonderful painting, you want to put it into a frame, and that'll cover that up. So gradually here we go. We're getting nearer and nearer to the result we're looking for. Again, I'm going through here. Try and just, again here, one sort of squidging, what I call squidging the colour on. We're just going in quickly, not being too detailed, too controlling. Now then, we can now begin to build up. This is beginning to dry off here. We're going to try and get some of this character here. So I'm going to pick up some sap green, more or less, well, it is straight out of the tube. But again here now, I'm going to dab on. I could actually do it a bit more pigment. It's a bit pigment. There we go. And I'm going to work around some of my pencil lines that I've created. And again, we'll be going up now. Again, careful around by the house, by the building. I'm having to watch the time again. Unfortunately, this is one downside about all of this is the amount of limited time one's got. But hopefully, by the time the time runs out, we would have got most, if not all, the greenery done. Again, see how you dab it on, it gives a feeling of natural foliage. Again, here I'm just working through. Again, it's a bit darker here, so again, I'm just working the colour through here. And I'll squidge it up and down, just give a feeling of rough grass. Now again here, although we're over painting here, because the brown is a dark. Remember again, I remember I said before that we work from lighter colours to darker colours, and the darker colours will cover over the lighter colours. And again here, I'm just going to sort of tufts of grass here, a bit more pigment. As I'm working, I'm just picking up. Because the grass is still quite, that we put on first of all, is still quite wet, I'm actually picking up the green, sap green solidly, as it were, on the brush, and I'm just working it around. And can you see how it just sort of thins down in places? If you look at how it is on that, a bit more colour. I'm watching time because we're going to be running out of time shortly, so we'll have to come back. Now, I'm making it darker here, just using the tip of the brush more, because again we want to hold the picture in here, and again the same over this side as well. So if you ever look at what I call classical paintings, you can see the movement where your eye is being led, or where your eyes are being held back from various places. Now, we've only got a couple of minutes left for this, so what I'm going to have to do is, hopefully you can see how I've been going. We'll have to come back to this now with a second go on the painting as far as the greenery goes, and then hopefully we can start getting the brown done as well. It looks as though we might land up having to do at least three sessions on doing all this. Okay, so we're nearly there. Now what I'm going to do is, I think I won't use my Payne's grey, which is what I would normally do. I'm just going to bung in a little bit of the blue, if I can undo it, and just a little bit of the blue there. Now again here, I'm actually going to bring the lighter colour into the darker colour. And then we say work the other way around, but this is sometimes, occasionally, again you can then get a bit more control. And again here, look what happens. See how that's darkened down, and you begin to get a feeling of shadow and things that are being created. So it begins to give shape to the trees around. Now I'm going to have to stop in any moment now, so I'll just do this very quickly. You've got more time, and I'm going to have to stop now. Try and be patient. If you can pick up on the picture there, and then we can come back to this again. All right, so that's it for now, and then we'll get on to lesson number 8. Okay, so bye for now.